Right. Well, so welcome everyone. I'm Michael Naylor and transmitting from South Portland, Maine. I'm the director of the Maine Enneagram Center for Transformation and Change, and have the opportunity today to talk to a lovely Type 9, Martha, who's miles away from me in Cape Elizabeth, and to hear about the agony and the ecstasy of the 9 and anything in between or above that. So anyway, great to have you here, and we'll just have fun and see what comes about. So tell us a little bit about your 9 experience and what stands out for you.
Hi, Michael. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome to
Um,
have you here.
my 9 experience. Well, I didn't know I was a 9 till I was about 44 years old. I mean, I probably knew it before that, but I didn't officially know it until I was working at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health. And Helen Palmer, who's kind of a leading teacher, I think it's safe to say, in the Enneagram, was compiling a panel for a workshop she was leading. And so she asked if any staff wanted to be on the panel. And so she had us take the exam. And what I now know to be in classic 9 fashion, I thought I was 3 and 4 different types because I could relate to so many. And she asked some very, clear, discerning questions. And she said, "You're a 9, read the description of 9. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm a 9, I'm a 9. So that was my first exposure to the Enneagram and this idea that I am type 9, peacemaker. And once I had just that little bit of awareness of the attributes of a type 9, the more I was aware of it, or the more I just sort of proceeded with that awareness, it became more and more clear to me that I was a type 9. And, fortunately by then I had done a lot of personal work. So I wasn't a lower level type 9, in my mid 40s, just coming into this awareness. But, I've just done a lot of work, I'd say, since I was in my early 30s personally. And so I was not, I don't know, I would ever say I was a doormat, but I would say the tendency of going along to get along has been a pretty strong theme in much of my life and still shows up to this day. I was thinking, as I was looking at the description of type 9s, how life continually offers you opportunities to become aware of your type and where you can go to in stress and where you can go to. What's the other arrow down, Michael? Stress and.
Well, we call them stress or integration.
Or integration, yeah.
Yeah, so 9 going to 3 would be integration, and 9 to 6 stress, and actually we can go to the healthy or unhealthy aspects of either one of those arrows. Yeah.
So as I was reading some materials to prepare for this, I saw that, where you go to in stress. And that's so true for me, this past year with the pandemic, and mostly out of, of course, the global stress that we've experienced for the last few years, stress we experienced in the pandemic and the elections. And then another personal layer of stress, having 2 parents in their 90s.
Oh, wow.
And being concerned about them and the pandemic.
Yeah.
And what would happen, if one of them got COVID, because they're very, very, very connected. My dad in particular to my mom, and just the idea that he could be in a hospital by himself and not know where she is, not understand why she's not there.
Yeah.
Led to all kinds of stress and insomnia. So there's this new phrase, coronasomnia, I think it is. So yeah, I had coronasomnia for a lot of last year and still ongoing every now and then. So that kind of popped out to me today as I was looking at some materials. And the other thing along the lines of how life continually gives you an opportunity to become more aware of your type and the work and the growth you can do. Getting married, big one for me. And that was only 13 years ago. I got married much later in life, but whole new way of recognizing the way I would go along to get along, and then start to assert, what doesn't work for me, what does work for me, what I want, what I don't want, particularly in terms of downtime. That was big. That was big work for me. Really hard, really
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah. Well, so, we call the nine the peacemaker, the easygoing, self-effacing type. And I always think of my favorite type nine is Mr. Rogers
Mm,
and his, self-effacing, easygoing, uh, compassionate kindness. If there was anything, so it's an interesting thing. It's like when nine is healthy, they do have an anchor of presence and awareness that can be rather unshakable when they're in what it is they care about. And I was thinking of him, and just as easygoing and laid back as he was just fierce around delivering the message of compassion and kindness and acceptance for children.
mm,
And there is, but it didn't come across as an extroverted sort of expression, but internally there was a firmness. And I wondered for you, in your journey, sometimes nines will say that when I'm not connected with myself, if you ask me what do I want, it's like, I don't know, what do you want, let's do what you want to do. And I wondered what sort of lessons you've learned around being able to connect with your own wish and not just sort of habitually go along, uh, because that was a habit that was easy to go to. So what's been true for you?
I would say that in the realm of friendship, I've gotten very good at being clear about what I want to do, what I don't want to do, what I wish to do, what I don't wish to do,
Hmm.
along with um, sort of staying open, you know, to
Hmm.
people's ideas and making plans.
Hmm.
Um, in the realm, again, of relationship, marriage, um, I do often default, particularly if it's the end of the workday and an idea comes up, to do something, to go somewhere. My husband's a high extrovert. So he'll get up at, 4:35 a.m., go for a bike ride, go to work, come home and be totally up for going out to dinner and a movie. And then he could probably get up and do it all again the next day. Yeah. And so when we first got married, I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Even though internally I was going, no, I need downtime. I need quiet time. Because it was fun. It was fun being around this extrovert and was new. And, I enjoy his company. I'd still enjoy his company. And we're definitely at more of a place now, 13 years in to the relationship, of me kind of having educated him around my need for downtime. We even had a great coaching session with this woman, Maria Namath, who did the Myers-Briggs for us. And she said, like, Tom, you could go all day and then go out and have fun, go party at night. If Martha's socializing during the day or working hard during the day, she needs downtime at night. So we've kind of gotten to that place, and I'll still really kind of need to work at it, but I'm definitely have gotten better with, didn't sleep well last night. I don't want to go to the movie tonight. How about tomorrow night? So not
Good.
completely rejecting the idea, but not
Mhm.
if internally, I'm contracting around the idea, I'm definitely tuned into that sensation.
Awesome.
And I'll kind of go, no, not tonight. How about the next night?
Yeah, so it comes through your body. That's like sort of the signal, like, Martha, yeah, look down here. There's a
Yeah.
no at this moment. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I can imagine um, that your work with yoga has assisted you in attuning to your body and those signals. And I wonder if you could say just a little bit about that and how that because, one of the things that we often hear about the 4, 5, and 9s, that often they're the most disconnected from their body. And it's not always the case. I'm a type 4, and being in my body since I was a little boy was my lifeline to being, not going totally starker. So, but what's been true for you?
Well, I started practicing yoga again later in life. I think I took my first yoga class when I was about 39 or 40. And my initial reaction was, are you serious? They want me to sit cross-legged for how long? And that's supposed to be relaxing? I was very aware of how uncomfortable sitting cross-legged was because I had very tight hips. I hadn't done yoga in my whole life. Once I started practicing regularly at Kripalu when I was working, so I'd work and then I'd go to afternoon yoga and I'd go back to work for a little bit. I couldn't believe how good it felt at the end, and I was learning through yoga to really tune into the body, to really tune into my energy. And knowing how good it felt at the end of class, that's what kept me on the mat.
Awesome.
Because like I remember the early classes, I'd have all these kind of common reactions of, would they just stop talking already? Because I'm also Pitta. So if you know the doshas from Ayurveda, Pitta is fiery. So when I get stressed, I get irritable. So I would notice that. And again, just remembering how good it felt and how it was like a full body yes.
Awesome.
At the end of the experience kept me going to yoga class. And I never thought I would be a yoga teacher. When I first started practicing, I had no interest in teaching. And it was after years of experiencing how good it was for me on many levels, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually, energetically. That's what kept me going. And that's what drove me to get certified and to share it with others. And I don't teach a strong yoga because that's not my orientation. I go to the gym to work out, to get strong, and lift weights and such, to tone my muscles and get strong. Yoga for me is so much about relaxing and not doing 100% or 110%. And that's very much my orientation when I teach, because I feel like there's a real need for that message in our society and our culture.
Absolutely. Well, I usually do yoga 2 or 3 times a week, and what I notice is there'll be like this calming energy that runs through my whole body. Something opens up, kind of a flow of energy that's relaxing and also enlivening. And then also my head center gets really quiet. It's just like, whew. And it's quite magical. And just in a sense, being in the fullness of my body and not sort of compartmentalized in different parts is really comforting and healing. And to me, it's like a deep prayer. It's a prayer of the body. There's something, it touches a lot of different things. Like you say, the body, the emotions, and the thinking center for myself. And there's something about it as I develop body awareness. It also allows me to be alert to when I'm getting triggered emotionally, because I feel it in my body. That's where the trigger is. So for you, as a type 9, one of the things that you talk about for the trigger for the 9 is if they get overwhelmed or feel like I got to kind of escape from this moment, is that they have this pattern of withdrawing and going into what's sometimes called their inner sanctum or their secret garden. Like they can hang out there, and if you say, "How you doing?" say, "I'm fine," right? And fine means I'm effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional, but I am fine. Talk to the hand. But I wonder for you if you notice that throughout, teenage years as a kid, that you had a withdrawn pattern when you were triggered or feeling afraid, or aside from just all the withdrawn types need downtime to kind of, discharge all the impressions they've taken in from the world. But what have you noticed in your lifetime around that withdrawal pattern?
I can't say, Michael, that I have a distinct recollection of this idea or the sense of drawing within.
Mhm.
I can say that I would somaticize. So if I was anxious, I would get a stomach ache when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was sort of a classic pattern for me.
Mhm.
Anxious, overwhelmed,
Mhm.
stomach ache.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I didn't really become aware of, and I think for me, what I'm aware of was shutting down, so it it came to my attention when I was working in this team at Kripalu. We would have these long meetings on Tuesday mornings about scheduling. I worked in the workshop planning and scheduling department. And we'd have these long meetings on Tuesday from like 9 or 9:30 till 12. And they were intense. This was a group of fierce, smart, savvy, gifted women. And the meeting was intense. And I would shut down right around 11, 11:30. And, whomever was leading the team would kind of go, "Are you with us, Martha?" You know, because we'd sort of be standing in this big open room looking at this big, board of Post-its for the whole year, where the opening are, what we need to fill in. I either would just completely shut down and just lean up against the desk and barely engage, or I'd just go back to my desk and start doing work, and I didn't even know it till it was brought to my attention, so that's what I'm aware of. And I know I often shut down when my feelings get hurt
Mhm.
and I don't quite have the words yet to express it.
Mhm. Wow.
The withdrawing is more, I do cocoon myself, and some of it's about being also a highly sensitive person and needing quiet and downtime and stillness. And,
Mhm.
I read a lot in the morning.
Mm.
I try to have a different spiritual book that I'm reading, and my
Mhm.
morning is barely speaking,
Mhm.
cup of tea, and my book.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So you mentioned, that when your feelings might get hurt, that may not be able to come up with the words to communicate, so you might withdraw. And nines talk about that sometimes from the standpoint that they feel that they had this sort of inner predicament that if they started to get upset or to get angry, that if they actually expressed it, that they would get cut off and abandoned by the people they care about. So it's almost like they had an inner critic that when they started to feel some anger, the inner critic would go, "Well, if you want to lose this person for the rest of your life, go ahead and express it." And I think, and so it was like really until they learned to step through that, it felt like they were facing death. And I guess I'm going to die. So at least I'm going to tell you I'm angry, and then that will be that. But so a strong kind of abandonment and no permission to really say, I'm really angry right now. And I've worked with nines who said, gosh, I don't think I felt angry in my entire life, right? And others will say, well, no, I've got some anger, but I'm working on it. So what has been your experience with anger?
Either it bottles up and then I react. Yeah. Again, as a pitta, I can just, when I get to that limit, be very curt. Um, I don't think I could say that I ever leveled anybody, verbally,
Mhm.
but very curt.
Mhm.
And that is, a way of setting boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's not really the way I prefer to go through
Mhm.
life. I'd rather respond than react.
Mhm.
But yeah, sometimes I react
Mhm.
with some fire.
Mm.
Um, Have I ever said the phrase, "I'm feeling angry right now"? Could probably count on my one hand the number of times I've said that.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm often very aware when I'm angry. It's not that I'm not aware when I'm angry.
Okay. Okay. Well, interesting. So, and then if it sort of builds up, then it might come out in that curtness and like, stop right there or whatever, however you create that boundary.
Yeah.
So, so another kind of story that nines will relate is that it's like they have their inner critic sort of has a story that their job is to be the peacemaker. And if people aren't at peace, then they better get going and get in there and help. And which is both a gift and can be a burden also. Like, sometimes people don't want peace, right? But there's this sort of, message that, uh-oh, there's upset here. Somehow I'm responsible for some of it. And what can I do? And of course, the gift of the nine when they're healthy is they are quite a unifying force. They're able to see both sides of the coin and see how opposing forces are actually related and can be quite skillful. But that sense of, I'm responsible for being, for my peace and your peace can sometimes, nines will say that can kind of plague them. So what's been true for you?
I have this natural inclination to see both sides. And I think that's a classic hallmark, right, of the peacemaker.
Hmm.
And I think it can be infuriating at times when somebody's like really upset about a situation. I immediately go to a place of, oh, I wonder if it's because, sort of taking the perspective of the other person involved. Let's say it's
Hmm.
a disagreement between two people.
Hmm.
It isn't, it's
Hmm.
effortless that I
Hmm.
can sort of see both sides or imagine both sides.
Awesome. Interesting. Yeah.
Um, that's the blessing.
Hmm.
The curse is absolutely, I often feel responsible when things get heated in a group or family or friends, or somebody expresses amongst a circle of friends. This happened recently. Somebody amongst a circle of friends that I have felt hurt about something. I completely understood why they felt that way because they were good at expressing it, but I got it. And I was able to reflect back to them that I got it and apologize for my part in it. And then immediately came up with how do we go forward, ideas of how to go forward with this.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and the curse of it is because I take that really seriously and I do often take it on,
Hmm.
this sense that I need to help make this better. But it's
Yeah.
not always for me to do, right? So that's
Yeah.
where I'm continually learning.
Yes.
Where can I help here? Do I need to? Is it appropriate? Am I
Hmm.
am I helping and not taking it on? Am I helping because I'm taking it on? All
Hmm.
that discerning.
Yeah, all the different subtleties around that. But so it's interesting, I think that the nines have a kind of innate mm, capacity to sense, how people could come to terms and be at peace with each other. And there's like almost like an idealism that could, I think it comes from the core of their soul. Who knows? You couldn't prove it, but there's something around almost like a global wish for harmony and just being able to sort of sense, the beauty of human beings when they're in harmony with each other and almost a calling to be an instrument for supporting that or encouraging it and then we have our humanness and how that gets in the way of that deeper wish and how do I know whether it's just me being pathologically peaceful or whether there's something really to be done here. And again I think of Fred Rogers, and he seemed like he carried a kind of spacious impression of the harmony that kids could experience and then grow up to be adults. And so I wonder for you that harmonizing part and bringing unity to human beings, how that has played out in your life.
Hmm. Well, I'm not sure this is related or, exactly an idea of unity and harmony, but I have always um, walked pretty firmly on the spiritual path
Mhm,
and shared that with others, whether it was when I was younger. I
mhm.
was very involved with the youth ministry at this very wonderful progressive Catholic parish I was involved with down in southern New York State,
Oh,
or as a yoga teacher or as a shamanic practitioner,
hmm,
which, in a lot of ways, it's supporting individuals in their individual coming at peace with themselves,
mhm.
which then has the ripple effects of
Absolutely.
bringing peace out into the world and
Yeah,
healthier people, whether it's in body, mind, or spirit,
yeah, yeah,
out into the world.
yeah. Well, so the other thing I've noticed about nines is they have a kind of natural humility around feeling like no one's less or no one's worse than we're really all in this together. We're just human beings doing our best, and there's a kind of I always experience as a felt sense of knowing that isn't about any kind of ego structure. It's just a sense that we're all here together, being human beings, doing the best we can, and uh, you know, nobody's superior, nobody's inferior. We're really equals in many ways, and there's a kind of groundedness and a sense of like letting people know that you're welcome here as you are. Let's just see who you. Just relax as you are. Do any of those things kind of relate to you and how you felt your nineness?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
That idea of you're welcome here again. Um, I can relate to that from the time I've been very young. Part of it's the way my parents created our home and brought people in, for holidays, whether they had multiple sclerosis or were blind or no family. There was
Mm,
always sort of an including people, because I have a feeling my mother is a nine.
mm,
Um,
mm,
just this feeling of, everybody's welcome. And it was a very welcoming household. And
mm,
then when
mm,
I got involved with this youth ministry, with this very progressive Catholic church, that was key when we would hold these events for the teenagers, whether it was
mm,
an evening gathering or a weekend.
mm,
Our mission was to welcome these young people
mm,
and to scan the room and see was somebody standing off by themselves and go over and talk to them so they're not left standing by themselves. And so that came very naturally to me, and it was just very clear to me the moment the idea was introduced that yes, this is important.
mm,
And I try to do that in my yoga class, particularly when we've got somebody new who shows up,
mm,
or if I go to a social gathering, to introduce myself to somebody else who's
mhm,
unfamiliar, new to the group or new to the yoga class, to introduce myself, to introduce them to the class and
mm,
welcome them, into the
mm,
class. Because some yoga classes, can be very insular. And if you step into a class that's been meeting for many, many years and it's of the same group of people, you can very much feel an outsiders. And I don't want that. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting because it seems like goes along with my experience with nines is they transmit this message, whether in their emotional atmosphere or by the words they say, that everyone's welcome and we all belong here. Everyone belongs. You're welcome, and I belong, and you belong. And there's a kind of a welcome mat. But it also, along with it, I've noticed is that like I worked with a type 9 counselor at doing addiction work at Serenity House, and he had this capacity in working with really wounded men who could spot bullshit in a split second. They could tell who the pretend counselor was, who the superior and he had this way of just walking in the room And he had this ambiance that said, every man here is accepted as you are. You're welcome here. And he could do that without saying a word. It was just in his being.
Mm.
And guys that would normally really pretty tough and hard edge would start to relax and their hearts would start to open up. And he was quite a Jedi around just sort of infusing them with the idea that you all belong here, and I love all of you, regardless of your flaws. You're welcome here. And that I've seen that again. That's Mr. Rogers, and I think of Jimmy Carter, who's another Type 9, that president who, when he gets on the airplane, he goes down the aisles and shakes hand with every person on the plane, says welcome. So and those kind of themes resonate for you in terms of some of your um, passions or way of being in the world?
I would like to think that I'll get there someday to sort of have that embodied presence of welcoming that Fred Rogers had.
Hmm.
I think there's some of it there.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that absolutely there are times where ego and insecurity gets in the way for me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
which means I'm then more focused on myself than other,
Mm-hmm.
and how am I showing up? How am I being received?
Mm-hmm. I'm
So
being kind of self-conscious about it, or kind of self-referencing and hoping you're getting a good review
yeah,
or
yeah,
not.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so I'm trying to bust out of my type 9 tendency to self-effacing. I'll say that I have been told that I'm warm and welcoming. So
Mhm.
I'll own that.
Yeah. Well, that kind of presence. When I'm in a healthier state, I'm not usually thinking, oh, there's that humility, right? I mean, if you're in a state of humility, it's very unself-conscious because you're here and you're in it. So there's a good chance that you're swimming in that atmosphere a lot. You just don't, take note of it. Yeah. So self-effacing, what has that meant for you in your growth and development?
um, I think career is probably a good example. Um, so I studied classical piano from the time I was very young.
Oh, really? Wow.
About 5 years old, I started studying and took a break and then really dove back in seriously when I was in high school. And I studied music, but also business when I went to college because I knew I didn't want to be a performer. I had performance anxiety.
Oh, okay.
So what did I do? I worked behind the scenes
Uh,
in the classical music world for about 10 years.
oh, okay.
And then I with some in between time at a different job, I then started working at Kripalu, this large yoga and holistic health center where people teach. Michael teaches
Hmm.
and lead workshops.
Hmm.
And I was really intrigued by that place because deep down inside, I wanted to be teaching at a place like that.
Hmm.
But for a lot of reasons, including needing to get experienced and trained in something to teach, um, but also because it was safer for me
Hmm.
to do the behind the scenes thing. I
Hmm.
worked there for 10 years, before I ever taught.
Wow.
And I did
Yeah.
eventually teach there a workshop or maybe collaborated on one or two workshops there eventually.
Well, that's interesting because that points to one of the themes that we talk about nine sometimes is this sense that it's almost like their inner critic whispers, it's better if you stay a little bit invisible. Like if you get out there, may not go well, right? And so there's this
There
sense
might
of
be conflict. If I get
yes.
out there might be conflict and I have to handle it.
Yes, and that will be the death of you. So just stay back here, and you're great with people. And so, tell me a little bit about your conflict thing. Like
Mhm.
how you've noticed that.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot
My
of energy in that.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Conflict, I feel it. I feel it in my body. I feel anxiety in my body when
Hmm.
there's conflict, when there are raised voices. Yeah,
So,
it really
so
it can be really disassembling.
that's a good
Um,
word for it.
yeah.
So,
So, and and that also, that avoidance of conflict leads to or has led to shut down,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Definitely shut down, withdraw into my room when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
shut the door, withdraw into my bedroom.
Hmm.
Um, and I've gotten better. Um, what I needed were tools. I just needed examples of how to say something.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of places like Kripalu and Omega and
Mhm.
1440 Multiversity and Art of Living down in North Carolina is that they host these workshops with
Mm,
people like Harville Hendricks and Helen Hunt and
mm,
Kate and Joel Feldman. So before my husband and I got married, my friend and colleague Rasmani at Kripalu said, I think anybody who's ever going to get married or make a long-term commitment has got to do at least one workshop with Kate and Joel Feldman. And it was, gosh, I don't know if I remember the name of the workshop, but it's based on Harville Hendricks' work,
mhm,
Imago work,
mhm,
and they just gave you a phrase to use when you're upset with your partner or you're upset and you want your partner to use. They
mm,
gave you a phrase, right? Classic Imago phrase. When you said this, I felt this. It reminded me when I was young and this happened. And I'm
mm,
wondering if you could fill in the blank.
mm. Yeah. Formula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or another one of my favorites is I trust you didn't intend to hurt me.
Mhm,
And when this happened, I felt hurt and frustrated,
mm.
you know?
Yeah.
So as long as when I had those tools, which are kind of peacemaking tools in a way, right?
Mhm.
Nonviolent communication.
Yeah.
Um, that's how I deal with conflict. That's how I deal with
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
challenging situations.
powerful to have little. They're kind of like life vests in in the turbulent ocean. I can grab on, and if I can remember them, that's the key. If I don't remember them, then I go on automatic pilot, and then that's not so good. But when you think about like conflict and how you notice like disassembling, it reminded me. Sometimes we talk about the image we use, and that we've talked about with the broken heart of the type 9 is the shattered heart that just breaks off in a thousand directions, like a crystal gets thrown on the ground and it shatters. And it's as similar to being disassembled. It's like, I've lost contact with my this sort of inner solid sense of being. So yeah, does that resonate for you when you say the word disassembled? Like
Yeah,
just scattered all over the place and can't even kind of grab on to anything that feels substantial.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
that's when it.
I can't say I've mastered it. It's still that way,
Yeah, yeah.
particularly if it's people I don't know.
Hmm.
Like if I witness something down in the old port, if it's an evening and people have been out drinking and then there's a, verbal discourse on the sidewalk, I just physically like
Yeah.
uptight and constricted
Hmm.
and if I'm near it, if I'm in it, forget it. Yeah.
Well, that's why you got to get one of those invisibility cloaks at Harry Potter, so you can just disappear, and and sometimes nines can do that without even the cloak. They have a way of kind of disappearing, and a way of saying, you don't need to look this way, I'm good to go. And have you ever noticed that you have a trick in banishing when you need to?
Oh yeah. I just kind of pull, it's like I'm pulling my energy in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also, because I'm a highly sensitive person and sensitive to other people's energies, um, when I remember to, if I'm going someplace like even just a department store
Mm-hmm.
or a bar, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, I kind of surround myself in an egg of light.
mhm,
And the idea is that it's a buffer.
mhm,
It's a
mhm.
buffer for what I don't want kind of gets bounced back.
And have you noticed that being helpful for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the 4, 5, and 9 are kind of renowned for almost being too porous, so that
Hmm.
stuff gets in too easily and too deeply, and so it becomes important, for each person to develop some kind of protection or shield, or I know for myself as a 4 for years, people's stuff just blew right into me, and I didn't have a shield. I couldn't like keep it out, and the thing that probably helped me the most was deep body sensing practices, and being able to sense my body at depth seemed to create some kind of, and I couldn't prove it with facts, but it appears that things don't hit me as personally as they did, or people's negativity doesn't. I don't like used to just kind of suck it in almost. So, and I think being in the body, exercising, weights, yoga helps too. But I haven't tried that sort of putting the bubble over. Has there been other things that you've done to try to create some insulation for yourself?
Yeah, I just, again, when I remember, I repeat phrases to myself. One is I say to myself, I'm not a sponge.
That's yeah. That's a
I'm not
good
a
one.
sponge. I have to say it 3 times. I'm not a sponge. I am not a sponge. And the other one that's really helpful is I try to say in a very gentle way I say it to myself if I'm
Mm,
sensing somebody's energy or witnessing conflict between two people I care about, or aware of conflict between two people I care about, or just difficulty with somebody I care about, is I say, I give you back your karma. I give you back your karma. I give you back your karma.
mm,
Because while nobody can really make it okay for me when I'm having a hard time as a 9, aside from saying, is there anything you need? Or would you like a
mm,
hug? Or,
mhm,
that's really hard. Aside
mm,
from that, people really can't make it okay for me. And that's not their job. That's my job, isn't it?
mm. Yeah.
So, and it's the same for others when they're having a difficult time.
Mm,
I'll be present. I'll
mhm,
offer, to be available to them. And I have to, for my benefit and theirs, say to myself, I give you back your karma. I give you back your karma. Because
mm,
it's, could very well be a growth opportunity for them to go through
mm.
that difficulty.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, also self-effacing, easygoing. How does that, I mean, that's one of the things we love about nines, healthy or otherwise, is a kind of easygoing, fluid. It's almost like water around a rock. There's a kind of, spiritual, atmospheric gracefulness. I know my friend that I worked with for years in the addiction world. He was just like, if there was conflict, he had a way of just kind of smoothing by it and maybe softening it as he went by, and it was a lot in his presence and just how he looked at people, but easygoing. Like around 9, sometimes you just feel like, oh, I can relax here. Oh, so what's been your experience of that quality?
I'd say, for the most part, yes, I'm easygoing until I'm not.
Hmm. Yeah, and it sounds like you feel that energy, and so you used the word, was it pitta? Is that what you used?
Yes, in Ayurveda, there are 3 ways of describing a person's being and body and nature, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And they're called doshas. And you typically have a primary dosha. Mine is pitta, fiery.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got kapha. Um, so pitta is associated with fire, kapha is associated with earth.
Mm-hmm.
Very grounded,
Mm-hmm.
um, kind of chill,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
real active.
Mm-hmm.
And then vata,
Mm-hmm.
which is associated with air.
Mm-hmm.
So very airy, vaporous, kind of like, you can have a conversation with them and they'll touch on 10 topics and then come back, and or you got to bring them back,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and
the head
kind
types. Yeah.
kind of ungrounded. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the pitta sounds like it relates to me too. So I can imagine sometimes when that pitta comes out that maybe people are surprised uh, because you may not be in your ambiance all the time, but then there it is. There's a
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I imagine that kind of energy, which in the Enneagram world might be connected with the sexual instinct, had really been a driver for you pursuing your spiritual journey and going into unknown territory and doing whatever you need to do to become more conscious. So that is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. That makes total sense to me.
So I wonder if you'd share a little bit about sort of what that spiritual journey has been for you. You know, you mentioned a progressive Catholic start, which is pretty awesome. And any things that stand out along the way that has been particularly helpful for you in terms of a spiritual journey or teachers or community?
Yes, it was a real gift to find this parish down in southern New York State. It was actually in northern New Jersey, but it doesn't matter. I was living in southern New York State. It was such a gift to find this place because they were living the message that we hear about,
Hmm.
of the teachings of Christ,
Hmm.
and about caring for others,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
not, he didn't hang out with the big dogs, he
Yeah.
hung out with the people, you
Yeah.
know, and
Hmm.
it was very socially engaged, a lot of social justice work, and
Hmm.
it was a community. They were very, very good at creating community, even though it was in a very wealthy um, town
Hmm.
in northern New Jersey.
Hmm.
Um, there wasn't a lot of hierarchy and there wasn't a lot of ego in the leadership.
Hmm.
And I made some wonderful, dear, dear, dear friends through my volunteer work with them and with the young people
Hmm.
in the parish. And that really fed me. Um, and it was because of that experience, that really good experience in that community, that when I was looking for a new job, I identified I either wanted to work with a progressive Catholic parish or
Hmm.
organization, or a place like Kripalu or Omega.
Hmm. Hmm.
And because I was really clear at that point in my life, in my early 40s, that the people I work with, that I want to work with people who are on some kind of spiritual path and who take responsibility for that and for themselves. I was coming off a really bad experience in a
Hmm.
workplace where people were just complaining and sniping and
Hmm.
just a lot of negative toxicity. And it was like, well, if you're so unhappy, why don't you find another opportunity, so that's what I did. um,
Hmm.
so again, it was because of that community and that experience that I identified the kind of place I wanted to work next, and that
Hmm.
brought me to Kripalu.
Hmm.
And because I was at Kripalu, and I then got exposed to all kinds of spiritual teachings. And like when I first started at Kripalu, I didn't know yoga was more than just the physical practice.
Hmm.
I didn't know it was this 8-limbed path
Hmm.
that included how you treat yourself, how you
Hmm.
treat others, inward
Hmm.
focus, breath
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
yes, asana, the movement,
Hmm.
self-study,
Hmm.
meditation, all of that. And so I kind of dove into that.
Hmm.
It really opened up a whole new world for me in terms of spiritual practice. And there were commonalities I noticed,
Mhm.
from what I had learned. And then I kept going and I kept exploring and following this real interest in the mystical.
Mm.
Um, and took some workshops about psychic abilities and
Mm.
that kind of thing. And then I experienced shamanic practice, shamanic work.
Mm. Mm.
So a friend that I worked with was studying to become a shamanic practitioner, and she would tell these incredible stories about what transpired in their trainings and what she experienced. And then she started working with a shamanic practitioner, receiving healing from him,
Mm.
receiving healing services from him. And then I started working with him and I loved it. From the
Mm.
first time, I loved it. I was on board, sign me up, sign me up. I worked with him for almost a year, kind of once a month for almost a year. And
Mm.
um, I was hooked. I was hooked. And then when I moved here to Maine, I started studying shamanism. And I just knew I wanted to be involved in that kind of community
Mm.
that did
Mm.
that kind of work,
Yeah.
that was on that kind of path.
Well, I wonder if you could say a little bit about what, how that contributed to your appreciation of life and your journey.
I'd say very much it was a matter of leveling the playing field in terms of access.
Mm-hmm.
So in institutionalized religion, for the most part, people sit in the pews and then there's the altar and the priest is up there or the leader is up there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a separation.
Mm-hmm.
And with shamanism, it all gets leveled.
Mm.
We would, I went to Peru with this group and we were in sacred ceremony at these sacred sites with the shamans,
Really?
all sitting in a circle.
No.
And their altar, they travel with their altar. They wrap it up in this sacred cloth and then they
Oh.
open it up and it's right there in the middle of the circle.
Mm.
So it just made spiritual practice much more accessible in a way and
Mm.
engaging. I
Mm.
was able to engage in a very deep way
Mm.
that I didn't access
Mm-hmm.
in the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the ability to share it with others, to share my interest and my passion, but also the work, the healing work, to share that with others was a very strong force for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it doesn't sound like it's for the faint at heart necessarily. Sounds like there's a lot of intensity to it too. But and you're leading. You do workshops and trainings now, right? With
I do.
shamanic. Yeah.
I
Okay.
do. Yeah. I both work with clients. So I
Mm-hmm.
work with clients individually, whether it's remotely or in person.
Mm-hmm.
People who are looking to either get answers or insights
Mm-hmm.
around an issue or a question or a
Mm-hmm.
decision,
Mm-hmm.
or they're feeling stuck around something,
Mm-hmm.
or they're just intrigued by the idea and they want to experience it.
Mm.
And more and more teaching, about shamanism, about the basics. What is it? What might it offer me? How do I
Mm-hmm.
connect with my power animal? Do I have an animal spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Finding an animal spirit. How
Mm-hmm.
do I connect with that animal spirit? How do I create sacred space?
Mm.
And I think
Mm.
it's part of this whole movement in personal transformation and spirituality, where it's no longer guru and student. It's you are the guru.
Mm-hmm.
We each are the
Yeah.
guru.
Yeah. 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 Well, thank you for that. I'll have to talk with you more about that. Um, so, just a question I often ask is, you know, understanding some of the challenges you've experienced as a nine and had, experience with it then over time, would you have words of recommendation or hope for nines who are all of a sudden discovering they're in this inner world of nine patterns and I didn't sign up for this, but there it is. Anything come to mind as a, sort of a hopeful recommendation or a perspective that you might offer them?
Absolutely. I think learning about your type is really essential,
Mm-hmm.
because then it's not, oh, I'm neurotic.
Yeah.
And you may be neurotic. I'm a little bit neurotic, right? We're all a little bit neurotic. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than a little neurotic. but it helps ground how we are and
Mm,
how we work in the world
mm,
by understanding it through that lens of the Enneagram and what your type is.
mhm,
So I think educating yourself is key,
mhm,
um, because then you're more aware of when you're slipping, to the more unhealthy
mhm,
aspect of your type, and
mhm.
then you can give yourself props. Like that's a boost, when you look at healthy qualities of your type. I'll speak for myself. When I look at the healthy qualities of type 9, I'm like, all right, I got that. I got that. I got that. I'm not doing so bad.
Awesome.
So educating yourself, and then I really believe that once you start recognizing that kernel of desire
Mm,
to move through life a little more effortlessly,
mhm,
and to be maybe a little more compassionate towards yourself
mm,
because of the way you feel in a situation or react in a situation,
mhm,
you're going, things will start showing up. I know that's my experience.
mm,
Books show up, something somebody says resonates and lights a spark within.
mhm,
Opportunities present themselves. You learn about a workshop, you learn
mm,
about a therapist or a counselor who does certain work.
mm.
Once you start honoring that little kernel of awareness and wanting to know more or wanting to move through life a little more easily, I believe stuff starts to happen.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that a lot because it points to a doorway that we often talk about with the nine is that one of the things that they may have developed as a little one was this ability to kind of erase their connection with what they really wanted
Mhm.
and be really hyper attuned to everyone else because they're very sensitive to everybody's suffering and where they're at and don't want to add suffering to people's lives. But that, as I hear your story, it sounds like that kernel of desire, that thread of curiosity, that didn't go to sleep. You kept tracking it and going forward with it, and the universe delivered more opportunities. But you didn't, in a sense, the big challenge for the nine. That's true, probably for all the types in one form or another. Is that you listened to something that you wanted and you kept moving towards it, and that's often, you got in action around your own life's wishes or your own passion. You have a passion, and for the nine, sometimes when they start to wake up their passion, it feels like I could be killed for this. I'm not supposed to feel passion. That's selfish, don't you know? All different kinds of sort of interrupting messages that can make it scary until you finally realize, well, it's the only game in town, and it's good. My passion is taking me someplace good. So, does that resonate for you in terms of your unfoldment?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I guess I've got it. I can reflect back on when I was younger. I don't know that I was all that tuned into that when I was younger, or if I was really anchored and an advocate for my passion
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger.
Mm.
Maybe with the music, maybe with the piano for sure.
Mm.
But I was very much a good girl.
Mm-hmm.
I was in that good girl bind
Mm-hmm.
for many, many, many years.
Yeah. 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 Well, awesome. Well, you said you had a couple of questions you had for me that maybe I could
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, you have this great handout you sent me, and there was something about the instinctive triad.
Mhm.
Um, Nines tend to be the type most out of touch with their instinctive drives and ability to relate to the environment. So maybe I'm just getting hung up on the words, but that didn't really make sense to me for me as a nine.
Okay. Well, there is a,
Yeah.
a context that might make sense. So we say that 8, 9, and 1 are the instinctive types, which means that one of their core issues starts with the gut center and the instinctual center. And the type 8 tends to overexpress their instinct and sort of power through. The type 1 tends to channel it kind of rigidly into what's right and wrong and trying to perfect things. And the 9 is known for disassociating from it and really trying to tamp down their energy. So if you think
Mhm.
of the instinctual energy, it's just their energy for life, that life force. Now, and so, the 8 overpowers, the 1 gets really strict and tight on themselves, and the 9 tends to tamp it down and disconnect. And it all varies a great deal around home environment, etc., how safe it was. The safer any of those types felt as little kids, the more natural their instinctual energy was, their aliveness energy. We often say 8, 9, and 1 are embodies kind of the will to be alive and be in the world. So yeah, so that does that make sense in that
Yeah,
context? Okay.
that does make sense. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then you had one about the wings, I think.
Yeah, for some reason I can't wrap my head around what the wings are about.
Okay, well, if you figure as a type 9 that you've got, point 0.8 and point 0.1 to your side. And so let's say a type 9 with an 8 wing, as particular people express to me, is that that's the type 9, easygoing, laid back. Sometimes, uh, they will find that they can just get really big and strong and really, sort of come out in the flavor of the 8, like, something arouses their anger and they're just like straight on and don't F with me. And then they kind of go back into their 9 space and which is an interesting sort of blend of the two. So they have access to being forceful and courageous and hard hitting, which is can be used skillfully or not. Um, and the 9 with the 1 wing just says that there can be kind of a perfectionistic edge. Like, I'm an easygoing, self-effacing person, but I got an inner critic that's pretty tough, and I can notice what you're doing that is not within my values. So there's that. So it's like a blend of it, and there's no way to. Some people notice that they can go between both wings, and there was a story that sometimes people have one wing that's strongest up until age 40, and then they start to develop the other one. There's not, it's variable. Do the eight, the 8 or the 1 resonate with you more than the other?
Yeah, definite perfectionist tendencies, inner critic. Yeah. I
Yeah.
had a hard time when I was a manager. I wasn't a manager for very long, but I had very clear ideas of how things should happen. And when they didn't happen, that was like, what's the problem here? And
Well, so, I've got to participate in your self-effacing, pleasant, easygoing presence, which, just flows off of you and it's very healing on this end. Just
mm,
appreciate everything you said. Anything else you want to add before we go?
no, thank you, Michael. Thank you for that. And thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah, just really a delight to hear your story and the way you've worked with all the different interesting 9 patterns and your passion for healing. So yeah, so I will stop this recording and then let's